Okay, so what makes me feel most vulnerable is going through a whole new shift in hormones. This is very different for me. Being this age, I'm learning a lot of new things about my body, my mental health, and it just catches me off guard. So it makes me feel very, very vulnerable, and I'm trying to get a hold of it.
So excited to have our guest on today. She is a powerhouse. She's phenomenal. She's been through so much, and
beauty industry icon.
Yes, that's what she is. She truly is. And I think she really is going to talk to us about her highs and lows, which is going to be exciting.
I feel like we have so much to learn from her, and all of us will learn a lot of really, I don't know, just powerful guidance of how to like push through some of the hardest things that she's experienced. So we hope you love it, and we'll see you all at the end.
Hi! How are you? So good to see you too. So nice. You're on my old paper. I can't believe it. This is Melinda. So nice to meet you.
When I first moved to LA, I jumped right into like the Hollywood studio business because that's when Sephora opened their studio here in LA, and I was like the first employee there. And I remember the first post I did on my Instagram was like me with a clapper on set, and I was like, moves to LA, joins Hollywood or something like that. Stupid like that.
Oh my gosh, and look at you now.
I know, so silly.
This is your own clapper.
It's a full circle moment. Now it's our own production.
Exactly. Pretty
Yes.
sick.
All right. Yee!
Okay, hello everyone. We're here with Shalini, who is an incredible brand founder. She's been through so much in her life and has so much to talk to us about today. So I actually want you to give a little intro about yourself.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I'm so excited to be here. So thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming.
And I love that I'm here with a fellow San Diego girl.
Yes.
That's literally where my life started.
I love it.
And I grew up and I was just always enchanted with beauty. I traveled to see my relatives in India and Africa, and we'd hop and skip over Egypt and Singapore. So
Wow.
I just fell in love with these flight attendants. I mean, literally. Now you'll understand the world of global beauty when I tell you.
Of course.
What enchanted me was the Singapore Airlines flight attendants, because they were like walking Barbie dolls.
Yeah.
So, I was such a like Indian girl nerd when I was growing up. I had braces and glasses and a mustache, and so I, just being bullied all the time. And
High five.
Oh, yeah. She was talking about this the other day.
Braces, bullied, mustache, everything.
You name it. So like these women were like walking Barbie dolls of confidence to me, and I was like, that's so amazing. So ended up when I was 19, my dad sent me to India with $2,000 and told me to start my own company. Wow. And I hysterically cried the entire flight because I thought they were secretly arranging my marriage because I was a really rebellious teenager.
Yeah.
And that was
You were
the threat.
19?
I was 19. My dad was like, if you don't behave, we're going to marry you off.
Yeah.
So I thought that's literally what was happening. But my dad really wanted me to be an entrepreneur. So I started in knitwear. My uncles were knitwear manufacturers. So did golf and surf clothing, which you can understand being from San Diego.
Yeah.
But really still loved beauty. So got a part-time job at the Clinique counter, had no idea what I was doing. All of a sudden had my first customer. I was so scared because I didn't know how to do makeup. And so I did her makeup. and she bought 3 things. I remember exactly what she bought, like a dramatically different moisturizing lotion, a toner number 2, and one of the lipsticks. And
Clinique is so iconic.
I know it is. It was like so white coat back then, Q-tips and cotton balls.
Yeah.
And the next day I got a beautiful bouquet of flowers and a card that said, thank you so much for bringing back my wife. She's been going through cancer. You put a smile on her face. And I'm like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Like,
oh my gosh.
The power of self-esteem, especially growing up, being bullied, it was you just knew how important it was to feel good and, to have that confidence.
So special.
And so I just was like, this is what I want to do. And I got just really ambitious. And I got to have this incredible opportunity of working with best makeup artists that were all launching their brands at the time. So Laura Mercier when she was launching Laura with Neiman's. I got to work directly with Laura.
Wow.
Danny Franz from Makeup Forever when she was launching, got to work with her. Philippe Chancel from MAC. I was like one of the first MAC. I was with MAC when you had to show them a portfolio to get a job at MAC, not just be tatted up. And,
Yeah, it is a different world.
and then Dean and Davis Factor with Smashbox. So I just started like getting to work with all of these phenomenal makeup artists.
That's spectacular.
And one day I got a call from NBC Studios up here, and they're like, "Hey, we heard about you. Do you want to come up here and, audition to be a makeup artist?" And I was like, "Of course I do."
Hey, we heard about you.
No, okay, just like you had your Hollywood
so
moment.
amazing.
I was like, I am not turning down an opportunity to drive on a real Hollywood lot.
Absolutely
Yeah.
not.
So
How
5.5
fun.
hour round trip, but I
And
drove
you
up
worked
here
for it too.
went in, and it was all these like hardened old school makeup artists that had been in the industry for like 30 or 40 years. And they're like, "Well, show us your stuff." I didn't know what my stuff was again, but I just totally
Sorry,
faked
how
it.
old were you at this point?
I was in my early 20s.
Okay, I'm just
Yeah.
like, so from India at 19.
Yeah, that lasted a year.
Okay.
Okay. That was not my idea of a good
Okay,
time.
okay.
Calling my uncles and telling
Yeah.
them we have a delivery date, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Don't worry, go have a cup of tea,
Mm-hmm.
have some chai." And I'm like, no, we legitimately have delivery dates. Like, this is not a go have a cup of tea because I'm your niece.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I walked on, I went in the makeup room. I had no idea how to do TV makeup. So I just did, everything I had learned from all these great makeup artists. And they're like, "Oh, it's so fresh. We love it." So they started me on the local news. I was driving up, I think 3 to 4 days a week from San Diego to Burbank. Wow. And then within 6 weeks, the head of the entire studio walked in and he's like, "Pack up your shit, let's go." And all of these mean makeup artists were like snickering. They're like, "It was nice knowing you." And in my head, I was like, I totally faked this to try to make it.
Yeah,
and like they
as you
found me
do.
out, like, I don't know what I'm doing. This was a good 6-week run.
Oh
I'm
my
totally
goodness.
fired. I was like sweating, I was like so embarrassed picking, just packing up my stuff. And like the guy that ran the entire studio for hair and makeup was very stern. So he was just like, let's go, let's go. And so I packed everything up. These women were like, "Bye, it was a good run for you. Nice meeting you." I'm walking out the studio. I'm like, I can see the door. And then at the last minute, he takes a left turn and he walks me right onto the Tonight Show. And he's like, "You're really good. You're going to work here with Jay."
Oh my God, I
And that
have
was
full
it.
body chills.
And that was like the beginning of working with tons of celebrities and all the TV shows, print editorial shoots with Herb Ritz when he was still around.
Do you think he was trying to mess with you?
I don't know
Like
what
when he
it
was walking you out?
It was
was
like
he
the-
trying
Yeah.
to like be like, "Oh, we're going towards the front door"? Actually, zoop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't
And then
know,
left.
but it was kind of like, it was just that, when you fake it to make it,
Oh,
imposter
totally.
syndrome. It was kind of like,
Yes.
sometimes those are your biggest breaks.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that, and working with all these celebrities living in San Diego got me on television.
Yeah.
And nobody was talking about global beauty. I was obsessed with it because obviously I traveled so much as a kid. And two, it was just, as a makeup artist at that time, there was just no colors to represent all
Yeah.
of these skin tones in between. And so, I started talking about how America is the greatest melting pot and there's new skin tones being more minute by minute and no one's addressing them. And, these are why Indian women have traffic stopping shiny hair and why Chinese women never age and why Brazilian women have these amazing bodies. It's not genetics, it's all these secrets we learned. And it hit. And that was just, then my career just took off from there. And that got me a publishing deal with St. Martin's Press to write my book, Passport to Beauty. And that got me to launch my first brand in Sephora and QVC. And the rest is history. And then it gets really crazy after that.
Beauty.
I want to get to the crazy too.
But like just that,
Yeah.
even just that story, which is probably just the tip of like the iceberg. Beauty icon.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That
Yeah.
is so
Seriously.
cool.
It was amazing. Like I just was so in flow. When you're in
Yeah.
flow. I love that you have this as beauty manifest because
Yes.
I feel like so much of my career just manifested from the good and the bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And you are just so inspiring.
Aw,
like
you're so
that
sweet. Thank
story
you.
is going to inspire so many people. I can just imagine someone working at a makeup counter being like, "Oh my gosh, this happened to Shalini. Like this could potentially happen for me too."
Yeah. Well, and we were just talking about this morning when we were getting ready before you arrived. I was like, or maybe it was yesterday, I can't remember. But when I first started working at Sephora, I was just a little baby coordinator at like 22, I think, in the makeup buying department. And, you know, most people would come and they're like, you know, in their regular fit, they're running around, you're kind of like setting up food for meetings and stuff. You're doing a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
I was in a pencil skirt and like full high heels every day because I was like, I want to look the part. So when I sit down in that meeting, people see me as someone who has something to give. And like, that's just kind of how the world works. Like you have to kind of fake it a little bit to manifest it. Like you,
100%.
you envision it, you see it, you embody it.
It's so true.
Yeah, it is so true.
You know, I have this one story of when I first started, it just came to me. I completely forgot about this. When I first started as a makeup artist, I was in Hong Kong and I had this client that came in from LA. And so I had this agency that would start reaching out to me and say, oh, we have some celebrity VIPs from LA. And I would get so excited. I'm like, oh my God, someone from LA is going to come here to Hong Kong, like little small Hong Kong girl. I'm going to do her makeup. So I did her makeup. And when I left, she called the agency and she said, you know what? I really liked that girl. She was so good at what she did. But in fact, even more than that, I just love that she walked in with a Celine bag. It made me understand that she's super legit. And I was like,
So specific.
what? She's like, if she's earning enough money to have a bag, then she can be a makeup artist. And I was like, this is so wild. But that's when I was like, this is so crazy. It's so superficial also.
But you
because you had
realize-
to dress the part. And then from that point on, I was just like, oh my God, does this mean I always have to dress the part and wear heels and wear a nice bag to go into a client?
Yeah, I mean, I
So
do
there's-
feel like dressing up and really presenting yourself. I don't think you have to have labels and
Exactly.
logos.
I believe in putting your best foot forward.
Yes, exactly.
And it's how you hold yourself as well, right? Like the confidence that you exude, your body language and your posture. So I'm sure they were.
Melinda.
Yeah. It was crazy. But that was Hong Kong for you. And everyone was like, oh, okay, this is great. Have you been to Hong Kong?
Yes,
Many times, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I spent the last 20 years on this discovery mission of beauty secrets from all over the world.
That's so incredible. Okay, so
Yes.
what next?
Okay, so I was like, you know, immediately had to define my niche in beauty because I was now got on TV in San Diego. One of my clients, Tom Bergeron, who is the host of Dancing with the Stars and America's Funniest Videos, had heard I was doing TV, and he came up to me and he's like, hey, I hear, and I wasn't even working with him at this point. I was driving up on the weekends for the most fun job I've ever had in my entire life. Like, it was a crime that I ever even got paid to do this job because I was working on a show, which isn't on anymore, but it was called Hollywood Squares.
Oh my God, I loved Hollywood Squares.
So I was
It was my
literally-
favorite.
It was 6 shows. We'd shoot 6 shows a day, and it was just, I worked with all the celebs that came in. So Simon Cowell, Alec Baldwin, I mean, you just name it. And at that time, initially when I started, Whoopi Goldberg was the center square.
Yeah.
And it was her, you know, crew, which really wasn't, this is what I really learned about culture. It was an okay set. But then when she left, Henry Winkler, the Fonz, came in, and he was executive producer, and it was just like one big party. We had Spagos catering, breakfast, lunch, and snacks. We had an
Wow.
on-staff masseuse. It was
Oh,
just, I was
wow.
like, why am I getting paid to be here? I was working with the most fun celebrities that I had grown up,
How
you know, just
fun.
watching, and, you know, anyone that was hot at the time came on that show. So one day Tom comes up to me and he's like, hey, I hear you're doing some TV. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, literally, it's a San Diego station. I go on, I talk about my favorite things. I lick my lips 25 times because, again, everything's my favorite. It's just silly. And he's like, well, let me see your, my entire theme of my career is like, let me see your stuff. Let me see your stuff. I'm like, okay. So I sent him a couple of my segments. He's like, I'll call you Tuesday with feedback. Tuesday he called. I literally was so nervous. I don't think I could put a sentence together. I was like, so, you know, you can be really mean. Don't worry about it. Like, feedback is good. And he's like, the only feedback I have is you have to do this. You've got a meeting with my agent on Thursday. So Thursday I drove back up to LA,
I love this.
walked into ICM, you know, got in the elevator with some very famous people. I was like, this is so bizarre. Got up and met his agent. And she's like, oh, you're so cute. Let's get you in a helicopter and you can talk about traffic. And I'm like, no.
Casual.
No, I don't want to go in a helicopter. And no. And I just said to her, and I'm like, no, I want to be a brand. And she goes, well, what does that mean? And I'm like, I don't know. I just know that I need to get to New York City.
Wow. Wow.
And that's what I had been told. Like, if you wanted to be a brand, you need to get to New York. I mean, things have changed now. It's become more West Coast.
Yeah.
And so she's like, well, you don't have enough tape. I can't even submit you for anything. So the next weekend I drove up to Hollywood Squares, and Henry and Tom were standing there, and they're like, how was the meeting? And I'm like, it was a great meeting, but I don't have enough tape. And Henry goes, what do you want to do? And I said, Henry, I really want to be a brand. And he's like, okay, go get into hair and makeup right now and take the camera crew and go interview every celebrity here, and you'll have your tape.
Oh
so I did. I got my tape.
This is the best story
What
I've ever
an
heard.
amazing human.
Oh my God, he's the nicest. Both of them are just talk about like sincerely paying it forward. Because I was like, what do you guys want?
Yeah.
And
Hear
they're
that a lot
like,
in
we just want you to
Hollywood.
pay it forward, Shalini. And that's why I mentor so many women, because somebody did that for me. They gave me my big break. Yeah. And so that was it. I got on the early show. I started flying to New York every month. I'd fly there, and in true New York form, and being from San Diego where we're tacos and beach, this was really funny. This senior producer comes over to me and she's like, I don't know if I can cuss on your podcast.
Yeah, you can.
But she's like, why the fuck are we flying you in first class? I'm putting you up at a suite at the pier. We're paying you. Like, what makes you so fucking different that we need to do this? And I was so stunned because
Wow.
I was like, whoa. And
Yeah,
it was so
aggressive.
New York, right?
Yeah.
And like immediately that's when I was like, well, no one's talking about global beauty. No one's talking about this melting pot. And that was the moment my entire niche in beauty was defined.
Wow.
And that was it. I started doing all of my beauty secrets, all of these like how to work with Asian eyes, what to do for hyperpigmentation, like all of these like multicultural beauty secrets.
Amazing.
And it hit. And I literally went on every syndicated talk show, started doing the Today Show every couple weeks on their viewer makeovers, got a development deal with NBC for my own show, then ended up getting a publishing deal with St. Martin's Press, spent the next 2 years traveling the world, getting the best beauty secrets from every woman, which was so beautiful to see that the universal language, whether you were in a slum or in a village with no water, no electricity, or you were on Rodeo in your Maserati.
Yeah.
Like it was beauty. That was the one language every woman spoke.
Yeah.
And then while I was writing my book, I met Kimora and Russell Simmons' manager, and he was like, you're not gonna make any money in your book. You need to start a brand. And I really didn't want to be at that time there was 47 celebrity makeup artist brands on the market.
Okay.
I didn't want to be the 48th. Sure. So I'm like, I have these beauty secrets. So his uncle happened to own one of the largest labs in New Jersey. So we went out for a meeting.
Wow.
And I'm like, I want to do a coconut amla, blah, 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 blah. And they were all like, you're from Mars. And luckily, at the very end of the table, there was this cute little Indian guy. And he's like, no, I know what she wants to do. I'll help you. So that's when I met Mohammed. And Mohammed came on. And he helped me. And before I could even come up with 5 products, QVC reached out to me.
Oh my gosh.
And because I was a spokesperson for a brand and I was selling out shows for them. And
You're
so
the perfect recipe.
it was just fate,
Wow.
And so QVC came to me and they're like, we want you to be on QVC. And I'm like, no, because if I go to QVC, this was at the time where you couldn't do home shopping and be in Sephora.
Yeah.
Like it was either or. You were either that brand or you were this brand.
Yeah, it's very different models.
Yeah. And so I told the buyer, I'm like, I'm totally not interested. And she's like, I'm coming to New York. At this point, I had a place in New York because I was like just living my best life.
Yeah.
2 weeks, 2
Yeah.
weeks.
So fun.
And it was literally the funnest time of my life because we just worked hard and partied even like 10 times harder.
I can imagine.
It was great. And so, so I ended up meeting with the buyer and I had such a bad attitude. I had like a napkin and I'm like, here are my 10 beauty secrets.
Was like a little ego coming through? Is that
No,
what
I
you're
just
saying?
didn't care. I didn't want it. I didn't want it.
Oh, for the okay.
I was just like, this is not my path. So I put
Fair
it and
enough.
she's like, great, we'll take your hair oil. I'm like, I'm not even a hair person.
Yep, gotcha.
And she's like, it's your grandmother's beauty secret. So she goes, we love it. And so I was like, okay. And so we literally got a PO for 20,000 hair oil, like right there off a napkin.
Oh my gosh.
Awesome.
Yes.
So we go, and now I'm like, this is great. I'm starting to meet all the labs. I'm starting to meet the CEOs of the labs. So they're all in. They're like, you know what? We believe in you. Don't even pay us for like a year or 2. So like they were indirectly funding my business.
Wow.
So then I got a
incredible.
call from Sephora. So now I was excited.
Yeah.
Because I'm like,
Oh my
okay.
God. Yeah, that ring from Sephora
Yeah.
it's
So
exciting.
I flew to San Francisco. I had my lucky napkin. have 10 beauty secrets now because, you know, it was like got me QVC. So I just talked to the buyers and I was like, here you go. And she's like, we don't want any of these.
Okay.
She's like, it's the year of the doctor. So we're not going to do skincare, but we want your demographic, Shalini. You're a makeup artist, can you create a makeup line for us? Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay. And she goes, because we need ethnic. And that is like what immediately I was like, no.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you're going to stick me in a corner with like ethnic brands, then I don't want to be there because then I feel as a hard to match skin tone that I can only shop in that corner.
Yeah.
And then all the women that I work with on a day-to-day basis feel like they can't shop over there because they're not ethnic.
Right.
So I just immediately said, we're a global beauty brand. We're secrets-based. I will make foundations and everything based on, you know, my work as a celebrity makeup artist, but you have to put me in the front. So they did. They launched me in 25 doors right away.
Wow.
We had sellout complete, not one product left, personal appearances in Times Square, South Coast Plaza, and Soho. And it was just a blast. And then we ended up, talk about being like so in flow with the universe. I remember opening up Victoria's Secret and I was like, we are such a sexy brand. Like we should be in Victoria's. We should be a Victoria's Secret brand. And I'm not even kidding. I went to lunch. I came back. I had an email from Victoria's Secret saying, we think you're a really sexy brand.
Oh my God, are you a queen manifester?
Wait, there's good and then there's the lows of trials and tribulations of entrepreneurship.
Of course.
And so we ended up launching Victoria's Secret. We became their #1 third-party selling brand. We used to get an entire page.
Wow.
Then quickly
Epic.
Nordstrom, Dillard's.
Wow.
We were the first product ever sold in the Walgreens.
Wow.
Little beauty the Dwayne Reed beauty. What's it called? Look Boutique. CVS. Then we went to HSN. Then we were doing QVC UK every 6 weeks. It was phenomenal.
Wow.
Now, I never met a woman on that entire journey in a fundraising meeting or in a boardroom.
Yeah, I believe that.
Ever. And that my challenge was I was meeting a lot of men and it was coming with like, if you want to do this, we'll give you money. If you want to. And so for me, that's really when like the angst started to come in because I'm like, this should not be like this. And then that'll take me to chapter 2 of my life.
Wow.
Yeah, so I literally built the brand at $38 million out of my garage in San Diego. It was the biggest joke. And all my neighbors would come and sit with me and like label. And then they would travel to New York with me and they'd go to London with me and we would just have the best
So
time.
you didn't have a team?
I had like the C-suite, like, operations and all of that. But like the day-to-day help, my squad was literally my incredible women neighbors.
Oh my God.
That were, and they ended up coming and working for me. So they ended up becoming part of my team.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
It was incredible. Yeah.
Wow.
It was so much fun.
I
So
just gotta
inspiring.
say, like the way that you, especially in those days, being a woman in the industry, when you're continuously confronted by men telling you what to do, how to do it in order to get money, the way that you pushed back and stood your ground not only is like wildly impressive, but also thank you because that obviously impacted the industry that we now have today and like the changes that we've seen happen because it takes people like you who are going to say no and who are going to push back and who are going to make your case and show them everything that you are and that they can't walk away from you. Yeah. No, I'm serious. Like, thank you.
But you know what? It was really, and you'll appreciate this, like as an Indian girl, it was like really giving yourself permission to use your voice.
Yeah.
Because, I was raised in a culture where using your voice and rocking the boat's a big no-no.
Oh, yeah.
And that didn't serve me well in the beginning of my career because I put up with a lot of stuff when I should have pushed back.
Yeah.
But when I did finally bring in, I had one great investor I had lunch with, and he literally wrote me a big check right at lunch.
Okay.
He was phenomenal. Now, I raised money I went against my gut. So this is a big story for people who are like their guts maybe telling them something else.
Yeah.
I had been approached for funding, and then I said no. I just got a bad vibe.
Okay.
And then a couple months later, my attorney came back and they're like, why aren't you taking money? Like this is like a lot of money for your company. It's a great valuation. Just take it, Shalini. So I went against my gut and I took it because we had a huge launch on HSN.
Okay. So yeah.
Within weeks, like that's when a lot of the sexual harassment started. I mean, my board meetings were, I want you bent over grabbing your ankles. I want to whip you. You're my slave. We own you. And that was like when I finally did stand up for myself, is really when the brand started to get destroyed.
Wow. I was sitting here like with the question on deck, like, how did you find that strength, especially knowing from what Natasha's explained growing up in the Indian culture?
I'm getting teary.
Yeah, like that is so powerful. It's like you didn't have a choice. You kind of had to find it.
I was so alone. It was so crazy. And I was literally, it was like David and Goliath. Like I was fighting this Goliath that was just like, we can sell you for a lot of money on the open market. I mean, just like horrible, like things you should never say out loud.
Yeah.
You know, but then started inviting young girls. And I was like, and when I put an end to it is really when it became so bad that I ended up having to resign from my own company.
Oh my goodness.
That was really devastating because I had put like every ounce of my blood, my life, my passion, my heart, my soul into building that brand. And it was horrible. And I had gone to so many women, and women were like, this is pre-Me Too. So they were like, there's nothing you can do about it, you know, or they were scared to speak up. And so I'm like, what the hell is going on?
And what year was this, just to give our viewers
This was
some
like
context?
a while ago. This was back in like 2010.
Okay.
Meanwhile, I meet my husband. Who's fabulous.
Okay.
Thank God.
Tell us
Tony
the
Potts.
story. So like you're going through all this pain, right?
Yeah.
And you were in New York at this point?
I was between New York and LA,
Still,
San
okay,
Diego. So
okay.
those were, and London. So those were like my rotation at the time. And while I was, you know, while all this was happening, I had met my husband, who was the host of Access Hollywood, moved to LA. And I told him, I'm like, I need some yoga. And I don't want power yoga. I don't want core yoga. I need mental yoga.
Oh, you are my people.
Yeah.
You sound exactly like me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I need to like get myself, you know, fixed.
Yes.
I need to heal because
Yeah.
this was just, excuse me, bullshit, you know? And so I randomly I found this Korean yoga
Oh,
right here
okay.
by LAX.
Okay.
I went in for a class. It was life-changing. And I mean, we've grown up with yoga. That's
Yes.
just like
Yeah.
what we do,
Yeah.
right? This was a different type of yoga that literally by the end of 90 minutes, I felt like I could rule the world. Like it
That's
was
amazing.
brainwave vibration meditation where you're like mixing your brain fluids. It was tapping to like move all of the stagnant energy and emotion that you like hold so much of it here. So it was a lot of self-healing, like self-Reiki, Tai Chi. It was phenomenal. So after about a month of doing this, the woman's like, oh, our master's coming from Korea. Do you want to meet him? Okay, so I was raised, we take a blessing and we meet every master we can. That's how I was raised. And we appreciate every house of worship. And so I was like, absolutely, we'd love to meet the master. So she's like, well, we don't really ask a lot of people, but, you know, he's doing a little private dinner. So met him, he didn't speak any English. And so I was all inspired. I'm like, can I interview him for like another book that I'm going to write?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, he doesn't do that. So it was just a big no. So anyways, during his talk, we ended up locking eyes, and then they pulled me aside after, and they're like, he will meet with you.
Wow.
And so we
That's
end up
an
in a
energy
little
thing.
room, and it's him and his translator and another person and me and my husband. And he's like, so why do you want to meet with me? And like, he was so stern. I was like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, well, you know, you've changed my life. You know, this is great.
Yeah.
Yoga and meditation. And I think a lot of women could really heal from this, you know. And then he wanted to know why I wanted to write my book, if I was going to credit him. And then he wanted to know why I liked it so much. And I told him what had happened with my first company. And he threw his head back and he laughed like it was the funniest thing he'd ever heard.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, no. And Tony's like, no, it's not funny. It was devastating. And he's like, no, it's opportunity for you. And so he asked if he could bless me. He put his hand on my head. He blessed me. I didn't understand at this point, like how big he was in the world. So I didn't understand why there was some of his followers were crying, and I was like,
yeah.
And then he left, and that was it, you know. And I went on with my life, and I was the spokesperson for the Body Shop for Canada, Mexico, and U.S. I was on a plane 3 days a week,
My goodness.
doing TV and radio in all these different cities, and then meet and greets, and then getting on a plane and going to the next city. It was fabulous, but exhausting.
Yeah, I'm like, I have whiplash.
Yeah. And so I was doing that. I was still, going out and working with my celebrity clients. And then like out of nowhere, my phone starts ringing. Now this is like a year and a half later.
Okay.
My phone's ringing. It's ringing. It's ringing. It's like 4:30 in the morning. And I'm like, what is a number I don't recognize. So I just turn it on silent. I go to sleep.
It wasn't on silent.
This is before the do not disturb.
Yeah.
That was a nice addition.
So anyways, at like 8:30, I look at my phone. I have all these text messages like urgent, Shalini, please call. Wake up, your destiny's calling. Shalini, it's urgent, please call me.
Oh my God, I have chills.
So I call this woman and she's like, hi, I just want to let you know that Master came to my house at 4:30 this morning and said that he needs to see you immediately, that your purpose was coming at the speed of light, but you didn't have enough energy and he needs to charge it. And I was like, thinking it's LA. So I'm like, yeah, no problem. I live right over here in Playa Vista. So I'm like, no problem. When? And she's like, right now. And I'm like, okay, where? And she goes, Sedona. And I'm like, no, I can't. I'm like, I have to take a plane to get to Sedona. I go, I have a birthday party tonight. And she's like, don't be crazy. She goes, he's literally wanting to help you. You need to come now. And so
Wow.
I called Tony and I was like, is there any way we can go to Sedona? And he goes, you should go. He goes, meanwhile, I was having all other spiritual things happening to me. So what I went through opened up my spiritual side in a way that I probably never would have seen without having to go through that.
100% agree with that.
Yeah. And so I was having
that.
all these things kind of happen and Tony's like, what is going on? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I talked him into driving to Sedona and he goes, you understand it's a 10-hour drive. I'm like, I just feel compelled that we have to go. Let's just drive. It'll be fine. We can do it. We love road trips. So we started driving. We get to Phoenix. We're maybe about an hour and a half out of Sedona. We're in this gorgeous like thunderstorm and lightning. And I was taking videos of it because I'm like, reminds me so much of my childhood in Africa, like the sideways lightning and all of that. And then like out of nowhere, our car got struck by lightning. And I got this crazy charge like through the left side. I mean, it was like hot acid just crawling down my body. It was so insane.
Hold on.
I know.
This story is unreal.
Oh my gosh. I haven't had this many chills. I know. I'm like sitting here like, what is going
The
on?
entire time.
Okay.
I know. I just don't even understand my story sometimes. And so anyways, people are pulling over. Are you okay? My face was drooping. I was having a lot of problems.
Terrifying.
And, but I just told Tony, I'm like, we just have to get there. And so by the time we got to Sedona, he looked at me and he said, that was for you. That was for your brain. He goes, everything you've gone through, you went through for a reason, but you already know that. And I'm like, no, I would never, put myself through that,
Yeah,
and he said, this is what I want you to do. So he gave me 4 things to do. And then he said, the 5th thing is your homework. You'll know at the end of the weekend. And so the 4 things were like hiking at night, which I don't hike, and I don't hike at night
Okay.
to these certain mountains. But I did have an inexplicable just transformation. I mean, I heard why I had gone through all of that. I heard why I needed to go through that and what was coming.
This is Sedona. Because the
Sedona.
vortexes, I had a full download out of vortex in Sedona when I went up and hiked by myself. And it was like, zoom, and I just had all of this realizations. Wow.
Sedona is
Wow.
magic.
It's magic.
It is magic.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to
you
go.
need to go.
I need to
That's
go.
where we were talking about
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
We're supposed
Those
to.
gemstone oils that I gave you are because of Sedona, but I'll explain that to you.
Okay.
I was going to ask you if they were like related to like crystal. And, yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, they literally took 2.5 years to make because I used real crystals.
Wow.
And then I worked with the crystal healers and the chakra healers and my chemist to come up with the oil that powers the vibration of the stone. So you're getting the vibrational beauty.
Wow.
Because Sedona is all vibration. It is. So anyways, I knew exactly what to do at the end of the weekend. It was clear as day. It was like somebody had written it on a piece of paper and handed it to me. And I knew that I never wanted another woman or a girl to ever, ever, ever go through what I had gone through and starting my business. Like there was no mentorship. There was a lack of resources. There was no tribe. And so I decided to create Power Beauty Living, which I don't know if you know much about that.
No.
So it was all about powering up your business. So mentorship for women by women, powering up your beauty. What are you doing for unmatched confidence, for unmatched leverage? And then powering up your life. What are you doing from a wellness standpoint so that you're just like such a warrior on the inside that what's happening out here isn't going to like
That foundational strength.
Super important.
So I came back to LA. I thought maybe 25 friends would come to my little event. We had 175 women.
Wow.
It was amazing. We had cocktails and DJs and beauty brands and shopping and thought leaders. It was phenomenal. And within a year, the United Nations reached out to me and asked me to launch globally on the floor of the UN and bring one of those events to 350 country heads, CEOs, and diplomats. Wow. And that was another manifestation because I literally lived in Tudor City in New York, which is faces the United Nations. And for like years, I'd be like, one day I'm going to be there because I loved all the flags because everything for me is global. And sure enough, we launched globally on the floor of the UN.
Wow.
And everybody was like, we want you back in beauty. And so I decided to just follow my passion. I signed a media deal out of Amsterdam.
Wow.
And did a box collaboration. So spent the next year traveling the world to 4 destinations, finding out all the beauty secrets, going into a lab, and then literally delivering you the entire Barcelona box based on my passport to beauty. And then with Tibet, we did, all of these Tibetan healing bath bags with the 5 yoga poses I learned from all the Buddhist monks. And it was amazing. So while I was doing that is when I started getting calls to create brands for other companies. So that's when I started working with Paramount Studios. I created the Baywatch movie brand, start to finish.
Wow.
Turner Classic Movies created their beauty licensing program. Helped FabFitFun create Ish. I'm Smoking Hot.
Oh my God.
Worked with lots of celebrities and influencers. And while I was doing that, I remember I was at the Cannes Film Festival with my husband, and I got an email saying that I was receiving the Mahatma Gandhi Award at the British House of Lords.
Wow.
And
oh my
so
gosh. Wow.
Flew to London, and Tony's like, "Is this really happening?"
I'm sitting here like, did all of this really happen? Like, oh my God.
Wow.
And I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. Even if it isn't, we're going to have great kebabs.
Yeah.
we'll have some good high tea. So we ended up going. It was incredible. I got medaled by Baroness Verma, and it was such an honor. And happened to go to India 6 months later. And when I arrived in Delhi, there was a car waiting for me. And next thing I know, I was sitting down with the head of Congress, Supreme Court, all of these ministers. And they're like, we really want you to bring some impact to India. And I was like, okay, let me think about this. Let me think about what I want to do. And then I was flying home, and I stopped in London, and I called Baroness Verma, and I'm like, do you think we could just meet? Like, it was so awesome to meet you. You're such a badass. I just want to like get your thoughts on this. And we thought about it, and I said, why don't we create another brand? But like at this point, I was creating so many brands for celebrities and influencers that the thought of just putting out another red lipstick, I just couldn't do it. I'm like, there's so much more to life, especially after what I had gone through spiritually and just the whole like, humbling of having somebody like come in and just completely fuck with your life, that I was like, we need to actually create change. And so that's when we came up with the concept of Ready, Set, Jet. It was already something in my mind because over the last 20 years, every woman was like, how do I save time? How do I save space?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, make it easy for me. And so I was like, let's do this. And we decided we'd focus on women. So very disruptively, we raised money by throwing parties at crystal stores on Hollywood Boulevard.
Oh my God, I
raised
love
our first
that.
100,000 that way. And then 95% women.
Okay.
We had some great men come in too that are amazing, but really focusing on women. And then we realized a lot of women had never made an investment, but really wanted to do something for their own independence, wanted to do something for their daughters, but couldn't afford to come in at the minimum check size. So then for 70 days, we ran a crowdfunding campaign where any woman in the world could invest as little as $100 for equity.
Nice.
And that was so interesting because I had randomly met Ranveer Alabadia. He's like India's top podcaster.
Okay.
He's phenomenal. Another like great spiritual connection.
Yeah.
And I did his podcast, and then I said, why don't you be the male voice for us for India? And he made the first investment and literally drove like 80% of our crowdfunding out of India in 15 minutes. It was insane.
Wow.
And we started getting messages from women that were like, and my whole thing was I wanted to level the playing field.
Sure.
Like I wanted a woman to be able to walk into a room and say, I'm an investor versus saying, I'm a teacher, I'm a nurse.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with those professions,
yes.
but like the head chain, like the turn of the head is a little bit different when you're on the equal playing field. So we started getting messages from women saying they were able to leave abusive marriages because people started taking their careers seriously. I mean, I had no idea that the impact was going to happen there because meanwhile, we were going into the slums in India and teaching these girls how to be makeup artists, how to be content creators, and then employing we employed 40.
Cry. I'm with you. I'm like,
see, I'm not the only
so
emotional one.
powerful.
I don't know about that, but I mean, I just have been
are.
in flow with. It finally surrendered, back in like 2015. I'm like, okay, universe, like, my talent, what I can do. Like at this point, I'm not even going to try to make this up anymore. Like clearly, I'm not in charge, so. Just use me the way you see best. And it's been incredible. And then I ended up receiving the Jewel of India Award from Prime Minister Modi's office, which is the highest honor for a non-resident Indian. And so because of that, we were able to, again, raise money over Zoom, champagne soirees from like a phenomenal group of Indian women in India that are investors. And, and now we're getting ready to really finally get Ready, Set, Jet where it belongs, which is in travel.
So
for all of us boss women that travel and are out there.
That's amazing.
And so that's been my journey. It's been a very like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I need to hang on. This is too crazy.
I bet.
Just entrepreneurship in general is already a roller coaster. And then with everything that you've been through on top of it.
And then in December of last year, the impact demand was so much that one of my great investors, Yogesh from Google, was like, you know what? I'm like, Yogesh, we can't keep up with this through Ready, Set, Jet. Like, we've got 16,000 girls waiting for makeup lessons.
Yeah.
And so we took Power Beauty Living, and he was really the one that I have to give all the credit to, and he turned that into a nonprofit arm.
Oh, wow.
So in December, we launched the We Don't Pass Judgment, We Pass the Baton, because, I've named the beauty batons because I want more women to pass the baton to each other.
Oh, I love
So We Don't
that.
Pass Judgment, We Pass the Baton. So we launched that with the nonprofit in December. I called my friend Francesca Cartier to come out, and she did her book signing and flew in vintage Cartier jewelry that her great-grandfather had done with all the Maharajas and whatnot. That had never been seen. I think one bracelet had been seen at the Louvre in Abu Dhabi, so we had to get special ops security for this event. We had a 5-mile geofence for Beverly Hills.
I bet.
And one of my investors, Rajul Kadakia, was kind enough to host it at her beautiful home. And
my gosh.
we ended up having about 260. We thought maybe it was first day of Hanukkah. It was a Thursday night in Beverly Hills.
Oh my gosh.
Which is always a bad scene.
Yeah.
It was Art Basel. We were like, we'll put 170 people on this list. Maybe 75 will come.
Yeah.
We had like over 250 people come. And it was amazing. Like everybody from Sally Krawcheck from Elevest was on my host committee to Sarah Chen Spellings from Beyond the Billion. Like women who really, truly walk their talk in wanting to empower women, especially on global financial empowerment. Lisa Miller Out, Chloe Capital. I mean, it was amazing. And then we had Hollywood, Bollywood, Wall Street, Venture. And it was just wonderful to see women just show up, looking good, feeling good, and celebrating the fact that they were with other phenomenal women. So
I love that.
My journey has been really, from the very beginning, all about just wanting women to feel good, look good, and do good.
Yeah. And that's actually why we bonded when we met. We met at a JP Morgan event.
Well, I mean, as she was introing herself, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
This makes a lot of sense.
I love Natasha.
I mean, everything that you just expressed, I feel like she has expressed as her goals.
Yeah. She is my goals. Like, this is amazing. And we also, when we were speaking, we were like, because Indian women in the same room, they don't really support each other, right? And
I have mentored a lot of Indian girls that are, because for me, I was the first South Asian to break into mainstream beauty. So like it is an honor to be able to see all of these new South Asian brands come up. But it has been interesting to see the South Asian mentality to other women. It goes against it's the we don't pass the baton.
Yes,
I've been talking about
I've been trying to explain this because I'm like, every time I'm reaching out to someone to be like, can I please help? Because I want to, or like I would want someone on my podcast, even if we both have beauty brands. It
doesn't
hello.
matter. Well, the world is an abundant place. As you know, you're into energy and all of that. Like there's enough for everybody.
Exactly.
And there is so much power. Like I just want every woman to realize that when you actually come together with other women, the power. I mean, there's a magic that happens.
It's true.
It's unstoppable.
And it's been suppressed for so long. It
Too
makes
long.
me so angry.
Yeah.
I'm very angsty. I'm very angsty, and I just
tap it out.
I really do feel like there's.
Let's do
I know,
the
right?
tapping.
Let's do the tapping. Get rid of the angst. Take a deep breath.
There's so much. I think there's so much untapped power in women that
Yes.
has been suppressed over centuries and centuries. That
Yes.
I don't think we even can wrap our heads around what we're actually capable of.
Oh yeah.
Is what my gut tells
But
me.
think about it, like if you had a squad that was like-minded,
Yeah.
with integrity, you know, that really sincerely was there to help you,
Yeah.
help each other. I'm working on something right now, which is a global community of women with influence,
I love that.
which I'll announce soon.
Exciting.
And I'm doing it with a woman that
Teaser.
Yeah.
Yes, teaser's coming. But it's really about bringing women of all levels together because everybody learns. Like I'm such a firm believer in mutual mentorship. You know, like I mentor, but I also learn from
Yeah.
like so many women that are younger and just starting out, you
Yeah.
know, and I love that. So I really am fiercely passionate about women supporting women. And I get really, I get my angst where I need to tap it out when I see bad behavior because it's not necessary.
It's so frustrating. It really bothers me because I'm like, I don't you know what? Goes back to the conversation that you and I had where we can't be like that. So I don't understand when someone is being that way.
I don't
I
understand
don't
it at all.
comprehend it.
Yeah. And it's not like we're trying to say like we're perfect.
Yeah,
Obviously we make mistakes and maybe we'll rub people the wrong way. And I'm sure there's people out there that I've offended, but like ultimately like our mindset, it's hard for us to even wrap our head around like why you wouldn't want to support each other because we see so much of the benefit in doing it.
Well, I told my husband it was because I was raised in San Diego. Because when I came up here,
You said that to me too. You're like, I'm a San Diego girl, okay? I'm not like these other girls.
Well, when I moved up here, especially with him being on TV, like everybody's like, "Can you get us a hookup? Can you get us like hooked up in Vegas? Can you get us on the red carpet? Can you introduce me to Julia Roberts? Can you, you know, And I was. At first, I was like, "Yeah, of course,"
Yeah,
but then I
exactly.
realized that it wasn't reciprocal.
Exactly.
Right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
and I told my husband, I'm like, some of these games that these girls are playing, like, would never enter my mind.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to think that way.
exactly.
Because I was raised in a city where, like, are you a nice person?
Exactly.
Great, let's get tacos and go to the beach.
I know. I love that you know my dad's restaurant, like fellow San Diego girls. Literally,
Not even San Diego, North County.
North County, yes. Encinitas, Leucadia. Most
Cardiff.
people even don't even know what Leucadia is because it's kind of been like absorbed by Encinitas. But I love when you see Keep Leucadia Funky stickers.
Oh, I
and
know.
Yeah, I grew up working in my dad's little restaurant and it was just such good vibes. Like everyone was so kind. And I feel so privileged
Yes.
to have had that upbringing. You know, of course, other things happen in everyone's childhoods that affect you in one way or another, but my environment was so special.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And now that I've been away from San Diego and back, I don't know if it's because it's home or it's just the vibe, but it was like an entire body exhale.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like I literally lost like
should be-
35 pounds in 2 months. I shed the bullshit.
It
I
is
shed the bullshit. Is what I
My
did.
like actual goal, I shouldn't say it's my actual goal, but one of my, I guess, dreams from whatever success that I find is to be able to buy myself a home by the beach in San Diego.
Yes. Same.
Because I'm so with you when I go there. It is just like it feels so peaceful and the ocean
That's
is
so
just
nice.
such my happy place.
I know. That's what makes me so happy. That was also a manifestation. I literally asked the universe, I'm like, can you find me a place where I can hear the waves crashing when I go to sleep? And literally the next day I found this place.
It's on my it's
I love that.
It's in my journal. It's in my meditations, you know.
I
I'm
need
right
to
there
know
with
some
you.
manifestation tips from you guys.
I mean,
I believe in it so much. I also believe that I've manifested so much. Like even just living in LA for me, I'm like a Hong Kong girl, you know?
Yeah,
I
definitely.
you're
actually
very
wrote-
cosmopolitan though, which I love about you.
I am, but I really love being here. Like the energy for me is so different to what I grew up with. So you talking about San Diego and just the vibes, I'm like, this is the vibe I craved so much because
Yeah.
I didn't get that
You
growing
have
up
to
in
come
Hong
down.
Kong.
Yeah.
I want to.
San Diego's like LA without all the riffraff.
Yeah, that's what it sounds
In
like.
a way, like
It's just chill.
It's
so
chill.
chill.
But you know what? Like
Everyone's-
one of the reasons I had to move out of San Diego was there was no community in our industry,
Yeah.
and even
Oh,
like that
definitely.
venture community, all of that.
Yeah.
And now, thanks to the pandemic, it's amazing to see the startup community and to
Yeah.
see what's down there. And there's like some big beauty brand founders that are down there.
Yeah,
And-
a lot.
yeah, and it's just it's a nice vibe.
Yeah, I know. I miss it all the time.
I have to connect you to one of my friends. Shout out Bodyography, Lori, who we're also going to have on
Yeah.
this podcast. She has an incredible brand, Bodyography.
Yeah.
She's so cool. She's a sweetheart. You would really vibe with her.
Yeah, I would love
She's
to.
another one of those like uplifting women that support each other. Yeah, they're
I feel like it's like so difficult though because we're sitting here feeling like either we had the environment or the life experiences in order to become this type of supportive community for one another. And I think a lot of the women who aren't there, it's because of the conditioning that they've experienced. It's because of someone telling them or pinning them against each other, whether it's an individual or societal or cultural.
cultural, maybe yes.
Do you think it's more
know.
personal?
I don't know. I don't think there's an excuse for bad behavior.
I agree.
Sure.
I agree
Yeah.
with that.
in this day and age, when you have
Yeah.
access to all kinds of social
Yes.
media
Yeah.
and podcasts, it's really, for me, it's where you want to vibe.
Yeah.
Like in the last couple of years when I've been even more, firm on my stand on women empowerment and women supporting women is where I've seen the worst behavior from women.
Fair.
Do you think that you got here though? Were you like this always? Like even when you were like at your highest point, were you always supportive of women?
Yes.
Always.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's
always.
amazing. So that's always been in your
Which is some people are like, why aren't you have more of an attitude? Like when I go to Dubai, they're like, why aren't you a bitch? I'm like,
Oh my
because
gosh.
I don't need to be. Like,
Yeah.
why? You can
It's
be a
wasted
nice person.
energy.
Exactly,
And by the way,
exactly.
the most famous people that I have met in my job and with my husband, like the A list celebrities,
They're the nicest.
or the wealthiest old money, are the kindest,
It's true.
classiest,
That's true.
nicest, most helpful. And that was always like a really great example for me of what I could aspire to be like. And by the way, being kind doesn't cost me anything. Helping
Yeah.
another person doesn't cost me anything.
Yeah.
But I just don't appreciate when I see bad behavior between women because it
hear
doesn't
you.
need to
Same.
exist. Especially when we're talking about women supporting women.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of women that talk about it
Yeah.
for self-promotion, but don't actually.
Oh my
Yes.
God. It drives me crazy. It's like my biggest pet peeve. I'm like, what have you done to support this person?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No,
I
but you're right. I think
I need an exhale. I need to go to San Diego.
Go to San Diego. We'll get you a taco. We'll go for a walk on the beach, and then we'll tap it out.
Yep.
Can we actually do that? Tacos and tapping?
Yes, we can do tacos and
That
tapping.
sounds lovely.
By the way, I brought the Tao Masters to all my events. Even when I launched at the United Nations, I had to go after lunch
To where?
at the United Nations.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I have to talk to all of these people after lunch. They're going to be bloated and tired. Like nobody's going to pay attention to me. So I brought the Tao Masters in, and I literally, you can see like the general, like all of these people having to tap out their brain.
Oh my gosh.
And by the time I had to speak and talk about what I was doing, they were all so happy.
How long is it? Like
The tapping,
Yeah.
as long as you want.
Okay, so it's just like a quick.
Yeah, you can. Like,
Really?
when I
Do you
get
say
stressed,
anything?
When I get stressed, I really tap hard.
Okay.
But so what I didn't tell you is after that whole experience in Sedona, I started taking 40 to 60 women every year to the retreat grounds, and we would do this like Ignite Your Infinite Potential, Unleash Your Inner Hero retreats
Wow.
for 3 days. And it was great because a lot of them were in entertainment. So Friday they'd come and they're like, when the fuck is this gonna start? You know, they were all like
I feel
bent.
like I
And
have
then Saturday.
so many parallels. My retreat program ideas
Yeah.
for the beauty industry.
Oh
Like,
my God, then we should talk because we have a lot coming up.
Yeah.
But then on, Saturday, they would cry all day from the vortexes. The vortexes just make you purge. If you haven't been,
I haven't, and I've heard a lot
This is why I've
about
been
it.
wanting
Because
to
I
take
really need to
literally,
do this.
if you hit the energy right, you will start to vibrate at a different level where you will literally shake off anyone and anything
I
that
need
doesn't
that.
serve you.
I
Which
need
is
that.
hard for some people, but it also shows you.
No, I'm ready
fruit,
for all that.
know.
Like, I'm into this world.
Yeah, and then by Sunday they'd be like completely different women. They'd be like, "Oh my God, I feel like a totally." But it's much deeper training where you're tapping, but you're using your voice. Because again, a lot of women don't use their voice. And in the beginning, they're so uncomfortable where we're like, use your voice, you know?
Yeah.
And then we're like, as we get into it, we're making them like really get louder and they can't, a lot of women can't do it. And you got to like really push them and be like, no, let it out.
Let go.
Let go.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. This is like a safe place.
Yeah, but also there's a lot of fear of judgment, I'm assuming, and that's kind of why sometimes people don't want to like scream or, you know.
Or they've just never given themselves permission.
Or
they've never even thought of.
When you had your lows, were there any moments where you felt like you really couldn't continue and you wanted to give up? And
Yeah, I mean,
because you seem like a very positive person.
I am.
Yeah.
I get that from my dad.
Okay,
My dad is like, one, my biggest cheerleader, so I love him for that. But two, he's very optimistic all the time.
That's good.
And I really appreciate that because I can get really low.
Okay.
Yeah, I can go down a rabbit hole of like, you know, catastrophe, like there's no tomorrow.
Okay.
So that's why for me, you know, when I talk about business and I talk about beauty, there's always that balance piece, like that wellness piece, because mental health is such a big part of your beauty routine.
Yeah,
Now
exactly.
you're speaking my
You're
language.
speaking, yeah.
You know, so like that's why I have vibrational beauty, you know, and why like I always tell people like when you're doing your makeup in the mirror, like make it an intentional makeup. You know, like have good self-talk to yourself.
Exactly.
You know, like whatever affirmations you need to do. So yeah, I mean there were times, especially when you had come out of that whole experience with my first brand, like I physically thought I was gonna break.
Really?
From
Well,
just the sadness.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
From what you went through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
But now I have the tools and I have a toolkit that I know if I'm feeling a certain way, I'm like, okay, I can go do this, or I can go walk on the beach.
Yes.
You know, being with nature, or
I'm building that toolkit
Yeah.
for myself. I just started to explore my clairvoyance in the last couple years.
Ooh, I love that.
And actually, funny enough, when I had my download in Sedona, it was a healer as well who told me that I was going to be going to Sedona. And I didn't even remember that she had told me a couple months prior. And I was driving from my home in LA to my home in Nashville. Last minute, it was unexpected. I got COVID and like I couldn't do anything I was meant to be in LA for. So I was like, well, I'm not going to sit here. I'm going to drive back home. I don't have to interact with anyone, you know, like I'll just drive myself. And I was driving through Arizona and I saw a Sedona sign. And it was literally like a movie. I just like turned my wheel and I was like, I'm supposed to go to Sedona. Like it's literally a sign. And that's when I had the download.
See, you
I
have
remember-
to go, Natasha.
Yeah. I got to go back, honestly.
Yeah.
It is such a powerful
Me
place.
too. We have so many people wanting another retreat, and so we're doing one in September in Tiburon, but I think the next one we're going to do in Sedona because
Oh my gosh, amazing.
it's been calling me. Honestly, I've been like, I need to go.
yeah, you do.
I know. I feel it.
It's just peace. I mean, I don't know how to say it. Like, I have not gone without having some crazy, like, growth spurt.
I love that.
I
like
chase
internal
vortexes. Like I love it. I dragged my sister out to North Carolina to this vortex. I got like an Airbnb like right on the top of the mountain where it's based, and my nights there were wild. Like the
Yeah.
experiences I had.
Can imagine.
So my favorite city in the world that I literally want to move to is Barcelona.
yeah.
You were saying.
And, you know, I speak there a lot. Again, another manifestation because we go every year. It's just part of something that Tony and I do. And last year when I was there, I was talking to another healer.
Yeah, of course.
We're into healers. Don't worry. We love
We're
spiritual
We're actually
healers.
going to have some on the
Oh,
podcast.
I love
Yeah.
it. You have to with the word
Yeah,
manifest.
exactly.
Exactly.
So anyways, we were talking and he's like, you know why you love it here so much? And I'm like, no, why? I'm like, tell me why I love it here so much other than like the sexy Spanish people, the great tapas, the cold cava, you know, all of that. And he was telling me that the largest vortex in all of Europe is in Montserrat, which is right there. So it grounds Barcelona.
Wow.
So it's that energy that I love so much.
That
So-
makes sense.
But have you ever seen a vortex, like what happens at a vortex?
No.
So there'll be like a tree normal trees that just up and down. And then you'll know you're on a vortex if you see the same tree, but it's grown twisted.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's got that vortex. And I actually almost passed out in one of the vortexes on my walk to Bell Rock Mountain.
Oh my gosh.
It was too much.
Yeah, it's really powerful.
What do you feel?
Well, it was wild for me. Like, I was just pulled there, and it was such a flow. It was like I wasn't even thinking about it or second guessing it. It was like I literally felt physically and mentally like pulled there. And when I got to the place where I was going to hike, it was pouring rain. And so I was like, I'm not going to try and go hike by myself up this thing when it's pouring rain. It was kind of steep. So I sat in my car and like meditated in the rain for like a few minutes, and it just stopped. And so I go up, no one's there because it was raining. So I had the entire place, and I go up to the top. And this is when I had chronic nausea for a few years. No fun. And so I was really sick trying to get up this hill. Like I was super nauseous. I was super defeated. So I started to cry, but I was just like, I'm going to cry now. I have to get to the like point of this vortex. Like I feel like I need to get there. And I just like kind of like pooped out and sat down as close as I could get. And as soon as I did, I closed my eyes and I just kind of centered myself like you do for meditation. And it was like literally a stream of information just like infiltrated my brain. And it was all of these realizations within that time of like why I was there, what I was experiencing, what I was pushing too hard, what I wasn't. And I left, and it was just like you feel light.
Yes.
All of a sudden, like you feel like your energy was clear.
Wow.
It was
I can't
really
even imagine
powerful.
how I would feel, because I feel that on like random days when I go out and have these moments where I just need to cleanse my soul.
Absolutely. Well, you're so in tune.
Yeah,
You
so-
are
This
so
This
in
is the
tune.
like-
city of angels.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
This is
truly
literally
believe
when all
that.
my spiritual stuff started happening is when I moved to LA.
Yeah, I believe that. I mean,
I always wondered why LA? Like, why am I
City
so
of
drawn to
angels.
be here?
that's what I say all the time. Like I don't drive, so I take Ubers everywhere, and I take it as a blessing, because I always feel like whatever that Uber driver is saying to me is a message to me. And
I
sometimes
admire
it's
that so much about you.
deep conversations that
Yeah.
came out of nowhere. They're like, "You've got this. You're an amazing person." I'm like, "What the who what?" Like out of the blue. If I'm having a really shitty day, I don't understand how my Uber driver will pick me up or lift me up, literally.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah,
because the messages are everywhere.
And she's very open and accepting.
I know. That's why I love
It's,
her.
I
That's why
admire
love her.
it a lot. It's something I'm like, rub off on me a little bit.
Oh, well,
No, that's
truly.
amazing.
thank you.
That
It's-
was the one thing that I learned from a spiritual therapist here in Santa Monica, was that messages are everywhere, but also those really bad, hard times.
Yeah.
He's like, you should be on your knees with gratitude. And I'm like, what do you mean?
yeah, it's very hard.
And he's like, those are your master teachers. He goes, those are those PhDs you get into life. You get in life.
It's
And
very true.
Yeah. And the biggest growth comes out of that.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I always look back at all my whole journey as well. And I think I'm like, okay, but that horrible thing that happened to me brought me to this. And so I
my
keep
gosh,
telling
yes.
myself, like, no, it's okay. It's okay. But when you're in that lowest low,
Yeah.
how do you pull out? How do you pull out? Like, I know, because I'm like, oh, I'm super healed now. I'm amazing, because I look back at my past and I'm like, okay, my divorce allowed me to be this person, or like leaving Hong Kong and ignoring all the bullshit allowed me to be stronger. But then when I hit a low now, I'm still like, okay, Natasha, this is going to be a message for something. What's it going to be?
Yeah.
But in that moment, how do you get out?
I guess trust. Like
Yeah.
if you've experienced the flow that you talked about enough, right?
There's always a net that's going to catch you. Like if you know that there's always, like that's
You
the
need
one
to-
thing.
yeah.
I know that no matter what I do, I'm caught. There's always some invisible net that's going to catch me. So what's the worst that can happen? You know,
Yeah.
one. And two, I think, you know, for me, when you're in it, it's really trying to find techniques and going into your toolkit of like finding ways to,
Yes.
the art of detachment
Yes.
is
Yes.
your superpower.
Toolkit.
The art of
detachment
detachment.
is your
I agree with
superpower.
that, because the more you like kind of detach yourself from the situation and realize that it can't control your whole life,
Right.
and you think about it as you having like something to protect you, like something is always there to protect you no matter
Yeah.
what. Faith.
I think
Faith and trust.
perspective is one hell of a thing too. Like when you can
Yeah.
take your perspective and pull out, like even if you think, I think about it almost like a camera lens. Again,
Yeah.
I'm obviously in the right industry, but like you pull out on it and you're like, we don't know what we don't know. And like none of this really matters. It's more about what's happening inside of you and how you're transmuting it and how you're
It's the story you're telling
experiencing-
yourself
yeah.
too. Like you
Yeah.
can change your story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Anytime.
true.
Like, you
That's
know,
true.
that was one thing I did learn from the Korean master was like positive mind equals positive life.
Yeah.
So you can
It's
dwell on the negative story
Yeah.
of what's happening. And
Yeah.
that's where I get stuck sometimes, where
Yeah.
I'll be like making it 20 million times worse.
Same.
Overthinking.
Overthinking.
We just posted about that on our podcast
Yeah.
Instagram yesterday.
Yeah.
It's overthinking. And that's why meditation is so powerful, because it's that practice of being present.
Yes, and also just going to the beach, because
Yes.
when
That's
you
a
look
good
at the
one.
ocean, like the waves coming and going
Yes.
remind you that everything in life, like energy, bad
That's
times,
true.
good times, like it's just, if you can flow like the ocean, then as my father always says, flow like a river, because if you don't, then you're going to get stagnant and you're going to get all the bugs are going to bite you.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's actually a good
Good.
visual.
Yeah, because then you think about it and you're like, okay, let's flow. Have you ever been to ecstatic dance?
So I haven't actually been to one
I'm
here.
taking you.
I would love it. But we do a lot of that in our retreats.
Oh, cool. Okay.
But we call it vibrational because it's a good for your lymph drainage. We call it vibrational dance.
Okay.
But I'm all down for ecstatic dance.
'Cause
I will
it's-
totally go with you.
It's by the
We've gone a
beach.
couple
We've
times.
gone. Yeah, it's amazing. It's
Yeah.
by the beach. You dancing. You're letting loose. You're
Oh my
kind of. It's
God.
the same
I
vibe,
love
but
your feet in
with the water.
sand. It's
Yeah,
so nice.
It's such a beautiful feeling. So that's why I fell in love with LA. When I came here, I was like, oh my goodness, this is what I can have here. I can't have this anywhere else.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to open up. And actually, it was when I got dumped and cheated on. Literally, that was when I went
That's
there.
what
I was
happens,
like,
right?
Yeah.
The worst things, you got dumped and cheated on, and then this happened. I hit rock bottom with my mental health. My clairvoyance happened, and like it's
Yeah.
just something always.
Yeah, you have
Blossoms.
to go
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
the shit, so to
Yeah.
speak,
Yeah.
for the growth to happen.
It's true.
Whether it's spiritual growth, it's whatever kind of growth.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen when you're always having a good time.
That's true.
So on that note,
On that note,
go through the shit.
Yes.
Go through the shit. Support other women.
Yes.
Please.
Yeah.
Walk the talk.
Pass the baton.
Oh my God, pay it forward. Like
Yeah.
that is my biggest thing in life. Just be freaking nice to people around you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, you
Just
never
pay it
know what
forward.
someone's going through.
Exactly.
It's more energy to be mean than it does to be nice.
Oh yeah, for
Like,
sure.
I swear.
And karma is real.
Yeah.
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 Any other catchphrase?
Anything from you? He's like, hurry up, bitches.
It's like, we are way over
We're
time.
way over. This was such an extraordinary conversation.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Oh my God, I
You're
love
so
you guys.
inspiring.
I love you guys. Thank
You're
you for
just
having
a
me.
big bolt of inspiration.
Like I feel completely surged. My body is tingling.
Yeah.
like,
We just
in
need
the
to go to
best way.
Sedona together.
Yes, for sure.
Done.
I have not met another person that's had similar experiences to me other
That's
than
what
you.
I'm saying. The parallels that
I
we were
love
talking.
it.
Like even your retreat. Like one of my biggest career goals. I won't get into it too much, but I would love to create retreats for the beauty industry that is completely digital boundaries disconnected.
Yeah.
Like I have all these ideas, and in my head, this podcast is kind of like a stepping stone to
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So
Well, let me know if you want to collab.
Yeah.
love. I'm just so excited to be connected with you and
Same.
to have
Thank you.
been able to
Natasha.
hear your story firsthand. So thank you for being here, and
Of course.
hopefully we can have you back sometime.
Yeah.
I would love that.
We want to hear about the thing that you're going to launch when you
It's
launch it.
coming
And
soon.
yeah, I'm
It's coming
excited.
soon in the next couple of weeks. I'm
Okay.
really excited.
So more to
Amazing.
come.
And
Because
if
there
there's-
are, by the way, I know we talked about bad behavior, but there are a lot of women excited to support other women. And
That's-
those are
of
the women
course,
that I
of
want to
course.
focus on.
Absolutely.
Once your energy is more, I think, open to meeting those people. Like now I'm meeting so many people that are willing to help back,
Yeah.
not just me doing all the
Yeah.
helping.
Yeah.
So I feel like there is that point where where your energy is more visible,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Or
Definitely.
more obvious. So yeah. Well, anyway, thank you so much for being here. You've been amazing.
Okay. This episode is so good.
Like we're still talking. Our
We're still
guest is
talking.
in the room
Our guest is still
waiting
here.
for us so we can continue this conversation because it was so magical.
We can't stop talking. We're all so aligned and we have so many ideas. And I mean, talk about inspiring. This conversation gave us chills the entire time.
Yeah.
This woman is a powerhouse. She literally created a pathway for all of us to get to do what we're doing in the beauty industry. Like I credit her a lot with that.
Yeah. She's a very strong person and so passionate, but also just such a good human.
And spiritual and intuitive and in tune. And there's just so many good takeaways from this episode. I feel like we're both buzzing still.
Yeah, definitely.
We couldn't stop talking, but James has to go, so we're filming this real quick. But we hope that you love it. We hope to have her back as well, and more conversations like this. So let us know what you think about the episode. Let us know in the comments how you're feeling, if you'd like to see more, if there's any topics that came out of this that you want us to expand on. Like, we are so passionate about this conversation.
Super. And this truly was a no bullshit conversation. So if any of you got offended or anything, we're sorry. But also just know that we're doing this so to inspire you guys even further.